everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my March new releases, and these are all the books that I'm interested in that come out this month. And I'll be going through all of these books in different categories, and I'll be giving a short synopsis of each book. And this doesn't mean that I'm going to run out and buy all these books. It's just books that I'm really interested in that I hopefully will be able to read in the near future. So first I'm going to go through all of the thrillers that I'm interested in. The first one is Every Last Fear by Alex Finley, and the synopsis on this one says, after a late night at a party, NYU student Mac Pine returns to his dorm room to devastating news. Nearly his entire family, his mom, his dad, his little brother, and sister have been found dead from an apparent gas leak while vacationing in Mexico. The local police claim it was an accident, but the FBI and State Department seem far less concerned, and they won't tell Matt why. This just sounds so fascinating, and I'm really excited to read this one. The next book is Too Good to Be True by Carola Lovering, and the tagline on this one says, one love story, two marriages, three versions of the truth. I actually got this one as my book of the month pick for this month, and I am super excited to get to this one. The next book is The Girls Are All So Nice Here by Lori Elizabeth Flynn, and the synopsis on this one says, two formal best friends return to their college reunion to find that they're being circled by someone who wants revenge for what they did 10 years before and will stop at nothing to get it. So this one just sounds super fascinating. I love revenge type stories, so I'm really excited to get to this one. The next one is The Vines by Shelley Nolden, and the synopsis on this one says, in the shadows of New York City lies forbidden North Brother Island, where the remains of a shuttered hospital hide the haunting memories of century-old quarantines and human experiments. The ruins conceal the sacred and beautiful Cora, imprisoned by contagions and the doctors who torment her. When Finn, a young urban explorer, arrives on the island, intrigue turns to obsession as he seeks to uncover her past and his own family's dark secrets. This one sounds so fascinating. I love books that deal with any type of virus or anything like that. I mean, currently we're going through a pandemic and such, but my background is actually in microbiology, so anything that deals with that I'm super fascinated in, and I love the cover of this one, so I'm really hoping I can get to this one really soon. And the last thriller that I want to talk about is Her Dark Lies by J.T. Ellison, and the tagline on this one says, at the wedding of the year, a killer needs no invitation. This one, the tagline really reminds me of The Guest List, which I absolutely loved last year. It was one of my favorite books, so I'm really hoping that this one is very similar, and hopefully I love it just as much. Next, I'm going to go through all of the historical fiction. I have been in such a huge historical fiction kick here in the last few months, so I have a lot of them that I want to go through. The first one is The Last Apothecary by Sarah Penner, and the synopsis on this one says, a female apothecary secretly dispenses poisons to liberate women from the men who have wronged them, setting three lives across centuries on a dangerous collision course. I actually just finished this book and absolutely loved it. So I will be giving all of my final thoughts on this one in my March wrap up. The next one is The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, and this one is about a World War II story of three female code breakers at Bletchley Park and the spy they must root out after the war is over. I actually just got this one in the mail, so hopefully I will be getting to this one pretty soon. The next one is Of Women and Salt by Gabriela Garcia, and the synopsis on this one says, a daughter's faithful choice, a mother motivated by her own past, and a family legacy that begins in Cuba before either of them were born. I have been really interested in reading books on different countries that I'm not from, so this one is set in Cuba, and I am definitely fascinated in picking this one up. The next book that I want to talk about is The Sunflower Sisters by Martha Hall Kelly, and this is the third book in the Lilac Girls series. I have read Lilac Girls and absolutely loved it, and I still need to read the second one, and I definitely want to read this one. They are all set in different time periods. So this one is a different time period from the first one I read, which was World War II. The second one is, I think, World War I, and then this one is set during the Civil War. But the synopsis on this one says a Union nurse who joins the war effort during the Civil War, and how her calling leads her to cross paths with Jemina, a young enslaved girl who is sold off and conscripted into the army, and Anne May Wilson, a Southern plantation mistress whose husband enlists. So like I said, this one is set during Civil War, and I'm definitely fascinated in reading this one. The next one that I want to talk about is After Alice Fell by Kim Taylor Blakemore, and the synopsis on this one says, until she discovers the truth of her sister's death, no one will rest in peace. New Hampshire, 1865, Marian Abbott is summoned to Brader's House Asylum to collect the body of her sister Alice. She'd been found dead after the falling 4 stories from a steep pitched roof. Officially an accident, confidentially suicide, but Marian believes a third option, murder. This one sounds right up my alley. I love reading books that are set around a sane asylum, and it deals with a murder, so I am very fascinated in reading this one. And it's a historical fiction with like a thriller aspect, so I definitely want to pick this one up. The next one that I want to talk about is What's Mine and Yours by Namia Coaster. And the synopsis on this one says, a community in North Carolina rises in outrage as a county initiative draws students from the largely black east side of town into predominantly white high schools on the west. For 2 students, Guy and Noelle, the integration sets off a chain of events that will tie their 2 families together in unexpected ways over the span of the next 20 years. I actually got this one as one of my Book of the Month selections as well, so I will definitely be reading this one very soon. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Sparks Like Stars by Nadia Hashimi, and this one is set in Kabul in 1978, and you're following the daughter of a prominent family. Satara lives a privileged life in Afghanistan's thriving cosmopolitan capital. The 1970s are a time of remarkable promise under the leadership of people like Sardar Dayoud, I think that's how you say, the Afghanistan's president. I'm not 100% sure. And Satara's beloved father, his right-hand man. But the 10-year-old Satara's family is shattered when communists stage a coup, assassinating the president and Satara's entire family. Only she survives. This one I also have received. I bought this one a couple weeks ago, so I'm really excited to get to this one. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Band of Sisters by Lauren Willig, and the synopsis on this one says, a scholarship girl from Brooklyn, Kate Morin, thought she found a place among Smith's Mayflower descendants, only to have her illusions dashed the summer after graduation. When charismatic alumna Betsy delivers a rousing speech at the Smith College Club in April of 1917, looking for volunteers to help French civilians decimated by the German war machine. Kate is too busy earning her living to even think of taking up the call. But when her former best friend, Emmeline, reaches out and begs her to take the place of a girl who had to drop out, Kate reluctantly agrees to join the new Smith College Relief Unit. I've never heard anything about this before, so I'm definitely very fascinated in picking this one up. The next one that I want to talk about is Surviving Savannah by Patty Callahan, and the synopsis on this one says, when Savannah's history professor Everly is asked to create a new museum collection focusing on artifacts recovering from the steamship Pulaski, she's shocked. The ship sank after a boiler exploded in 1838, and the wreckage was just discovered 180 years later. Everly can't resist the opportunity to try to solve some of the mysteries and myths surrounding the devastating night of its sinking. I've never heard about this ship before, so I am definitely fascinated in reading about this book, and I've also seen really great reviews on it on Instagram, so yeah, I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Half-Life by Jillian Cantor, and this one is set in Poland in 1891, and you're following Marie Curie, who was engaged to a budding mathematician, but when his mother insists she was too poor and not good enough, he broke off the engagement. A heartbroken Myra left Poland for Paris when she would attend the Sorbonne to study chemistry and physics. Eventually, Marie Curie would go on to change the course of science forever and be the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. This book sounds absolutely right up my alley. Again, I love books that is set around science, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. And the last book in the historical fiction section is The Songbook of Benny Lambet by Amy Harmon. And this is a powerful love story about a musical duo who put everything on a line to be together. And this one is set in New York in the 1960s. I read Amy Harmon's, what was that book called? It was the one that was like a time traveling historical fiction. Shoot, I can't think of what it's called. I'll put it on the screen. I can't think. But I absolutely loved that one. That one dealt with a grandfather and I loved it. It was so good. So this one sounds very fascinating because it deals with music. I do love music, so hopefully this one is as good as that one. Now I'm going to go over the romance books that I'm interested in. The first one is The Dating Plan by Sarah Dessini. And the synopsis on this one says, Daisy Patel is a software engineer who understands lists and logic better than bosses and boyfriends. With her life all planned out and no interest in love, the one thing she can't give her family is the marriage they expect. Life with few options, she asks her childhood crush to be her decoy fiance. I have actually read this one. I gave it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. If you want to hear my thoughts on this one, check out my February wrap up. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Wedding Game by Megan Quinn. And the tagline on this one says, a crafting queen battling a jaded divorce lawyer on a wedding reality show. This just sounds like it's going to be so much fun. I love reality TV shows, so I'm really thinking I'm going to like this one. And the last romance book that I'm interested in is Accidentally Engaged by Farah Heron, and the synopsis of this one says Rena doesn't love her career, her single status, and most of all her family inserting themselves into every detail of her life. But when caring for her precious sourdough starters, Rena can drown it all out, at least until her father moves his newest employee across the hall with hopes that Rena will marry him. And when Rena's career takes a nosedive, Nadem happily agrees to fake an engagement so they can enter a couple's video cooking contest to win the artisan bread course of her dreams. This book just sounds right up my alley. I love books that are set around cooking, and this one just sounds like it's going to be so good. Next, I'm going to go over the YA books that I'm interested in. The first one is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bawley, and this is about a biracial unenrolled tribal member and the product of a scandal. 18-year-old Danias has never quite fit in, both in her hometown and on the nearby Indian reservation. Danias dreams of studying medicine, but when her family is struck by tragedy, she puts her future on hold to care for her fragile mother. This one was actually just announced as Reese's spring YA pick, so I'm really interested in picking this one up. And I've also been really interested in Native American literature since I read The Removed in January, so I'm really interested in reading this one. And the last book that I want to talk about is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tolley. And the synopsis on this one says, a witch cursed to never love meets a girl hiding her own dangerous magic, and the two strike a dangerous bargain to save their queendom. I just love books about witches, and this one definitely stuck out to me, so I'm really interested in picking this one up. So these are all the books that I'm interested in that come out this month. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in any of these books, and also what you have added to your TBR this month. And until then, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!